awesome teachers, I'm Miss Ziegler, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you some ideas about how to keep your students engaged during distance learning. Most of the time this channel is dedicated to AP World History. However, because of distance learning, I've started doing teacher videos as well. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss a thing. I teach in Texas, and it was just announced last week that we will be closed for the rest of the year. In the process, we will still be doing distance learning. Our district also announced that grades will not affect students negatively, so whatever they had before spring break, we cannot go lower than that. That was a little bit concerning for myself and most of my colleagues that I had talked to. It's hard enough most of the time to motivate them while we're in school, let alone when we're not face-to-face. So it got me thinking, if we're not restrained anymore by teaching to a test, especially for on-level classes that no longer have a state test, then what could we do to keep kids more engaged? Is to use project-based learning in combination with what's called Genius Hour, or 20% time. This idea came about several years ago when Google started allowing their employees to use some of their time in order to work on personal projects that they were really passionate about. Some of these projects later became programs that Google still uses, and they actually found out that people were more productive by giving them this time to do something that they were really passionate about. I've always wanted to do a passion project or Genius Hour project in my classroom, but I've never been able to because of getting my students prepared for a test. So this seems to be one of the best times to do something like this. And what's awesome about Genius Hour is that you can pretty much form it however you want. So if you want your students to be more focused on English because that's the class that they're taking, you can gear it towards that more and still give them a choice about what they're doing their project on. I have two great resources about Genius Hour. The first one is this book called Pure Genius, and it's really good. It helps you structure Genius Hour a little bit more. Now it's going to look differently for distance learning because the way that it's structured in the classroom is you give them time on Fridays or some extra time in the classroom to actually work on this choice project. However, since we're distance learning, they could have time throughout the day in order to work on this. So the structures that he presents in this book will be a little bit different for distance learning, but the ideas that he gives are really, really great. It would also give you ideas of how to continue this in your classroom once we go back to actual classrooms. Another resource that is great is the Buck Institute PBL Works. And I have attached links to this book as well as that website for the Buck Institute down in the description below for you to check out. I took a training with Buck Institute, and the way that they structure project-based learning is just amazing. It's basically making the project the learning for the student. So instead of just doing a project to wrap things up, they're actually learning through that project. And depending on what your class is, you might be able to allow your students more free choice. So let's say that you have a student who eventually wants to be a business owner. Maybe their project would be about how to open a restaurant or how to open the business of their choice. And that would be what they were learning with all the curriculum kind of sprinkled in. You could have them do a project proposal where they're getting feedback from you about what it is that they're actually doing their project on. Or you could do it a little bit more structured and give them certain topics that they're allowed to do. For instance, if you're a world history teacher, maybe they choose their favorite person in history and they do their project on that person, so that it's a little bit more geared towards your curriculum. That is where you would decide how you want to structure the project. One of my absolute favorite books of all time is this one, Teach Like a Pirate. If you have not read this one, this is the one out of this video that I just absolutely love. It changed the way I teach 100%, and I always go back to it and pick it up from time to time when I'm doing my lessons. And even today, after teaching for 8 years, I still go back to this book as a resource for how to add creativity to your lessons. This is the ultimate book about engaging students. And a lot of the strategies that he uses in this book can be transferred into online learning. Most teacher books that I've read explain to you what that teacher has done to be effective, but don't really tell you the how part. This book is completely different. It has a ton of examples and a ton of ways that you can spark creativity in your classroom and within your lessons. For example, there are several chapters about how to hook students and why it's important to hook students before the lesson gets started. The example that Dave Burgess uses is that you wouldn't go to a barbecue and get served cold meat. You're expecting a fully prepared meal in front of you, not a cold piece of meat. And that's the same way with the lesson. We can't just go in and start teaching something without hooking the students first. In this book, he has several methods to do that. There are also questions that you can ask yourself when you're lesson planning in order to spark that creativity. So if you decide to get any book today and you have not read this one, this is the one I would recommend the most. Put this one in your Amazon cart because you need it. It's awesome. Also, down in the links below, I have attached a PDF. Another teacher made these a while back and I found them on Google sometime along the line. But they're little flashcards that have some of the tips from his book. And you can look at those tips while you're lesson planning to spark creativity and spark ideas as you're lesson planning. Another really great book that I go to as a resource is Learn Like a Pirate. This is by Paul Solarz, and it basically covers how to have collaboration, student leadership, and student empowerment within your classroom. Once again, a lot of these things work better in person. However, you can totally use some of his strategies for digital learning and for motivating your students to want to learn through this time when grades may matter, they may not matter depending on your district. One chapter that really applies is chapter 4, where it talks about focusing on improvement rather than grades. How often do we hear, is this going to be a grade? Am I going to get extra? How many points does this count for? It's so annoying to me because we as teachers want our students to learn. We want them to improve. It's not just about the grade, and we know that, but the kids don't focus on that as much. In chapter 4, he discusses how to change this mentality and push it more towards improvement-based learning. This works hand in hand with project-based learning because project-based learning is all about feedback and all about discussion throughout the project. And it would work well with distance learning because we have the time throughout the day that we could set up conferences with students. Instead of doing face-to-face boring lectures all day long of information, it may be better to conference with your students talking about their project, something that they are passionate about, and actually giving them awesome feedback. In this book, he also talks about how to give feedback in a more efficient manner and actually get results. Another thing that I love about this book is that there are QR codes throughout that lead you to more resources. Another tool that I love is Matt Miller's Ditch the Textbook. He has an amazing website, which I've linked below. If you go there, you can get some free resources from him. He also has this book, which is another really great resource. This book is full of awesome, engaging ideas and examples to go along with those ideas. Chapters include what every tech educator needs to know, selling it to your students and getting them involved. There are also QR codes throughout the book which link you to more resources. He also has an ongoing digital summit that's free and has over 50 videos of different topics that can help you through this time of digital learning. I took some of his classes from the Digital Summit last summer. There are several teachers involved in it as well, so you're hearing from teachers all across the nation. And it's free, so I mean, that's even better. Speaking with some of my colleagues and also scheduling my day, I have noticed that I feel like I'm a lot busier now than what I was in actual school. However, switching it around to doing some kind of project-based learning activity could help with that because your day may not need to be as structured. If you are giving feedback and the kids are doing most of the work on their own, that would give you time to continue to hone your skills. And I don't know about you, but it has been really hard for me to continue to stay motivated while I'm at home because it's very easy to get distracted. But one thing I love to do is continue to educate myself on new strategies as well as historical information that I can use in the classroom. That's what I'm passionate about. That's why I got into it. And I know many of you are the same way. So if we could scratch out some time in our day to be able to continue to hone our skills, read some teacher books, read some strategies, there are definitely enough resources out there. We just have to have the time to be able to learn them and use them. That's where project-based learning might really help you do that. And the best part is that we have the freedom to do that right now in this unprecedented time when we don't have to get kids ready for a test. Unless you're in an AP class like I am, then we still have tests to prepare for. However, on level classes, this would be the perfect opportunity for you to do something that would engage the students and really get them involved in their learning. And one other way to get some really excellent feedback from teachers across the nation are Twitter chats. There are all kinds of Twitter chats for every subject, for every topic just about. I posted in the links below an article that talks about Twitter chats and the hashtags that you can follow. It is a little older article, so some of them may not exist anymore. I couldn't find a 2021. But what you could do if you have a specific topic like Teach Like a Pirate, you can Google Teach Like a Pirate Twitter and several will pop up. For example, there's a Teach Like a Pirate Twitter chat and there's also subject Teach Like a Pirate. So I have participated in the social studies Teach Like a Pirate before. I have gotten so many ideas from the Twitter chat. It's amazing. Oftentimes I'm so busy writing down ideas that I can't even contribute to the chat because it's so much fun hearing what other people have to say. The other cool thing about that is that you can make friends with teachers across the nation. And if you decide that you want to do some sort of project, you can definitely hit them up for some feedback. I've talked to several through Twitter that have really helped me hone a lesson or helped me really get into it. If you have time, definitely check out the Twitter chats as well. I think the most important thing during this time is to remember our why. And our students are our why. They are the reason we do this. At least that's the reason I do this. If we can continue to be passionate about what we're doing, then the kids can be passionate about it too, and that will help them get through this time. I've talked to several of my students about what they're thinking and what they're going through, and some of them are very emotional about this, as we all are, and we're worried and we're nervous and we're anxious and we don't know what the future holds. To be able to create a learning experience that they're really passionate about will not only engage them, but will help engage you and help take all of our minds off of the stress that has been our world, basically, for the last couple of weeks. I think right now the biggest thing is just finding the resource that is going to be most effective and help you the most. I've heard from some of my colleagues that there is plenty of resources. It's just the time factor of using those resources. And that is why I think that project-based learning, using some kind of passion project with your students, hooking them into that would be the best way to engage our students during this time, because it would cut down on the amount of time that you have to directly be teaching, and it would be more student-led. Also, they might be a little bit more into it because it would be something that they actually want to do. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'd love to help out. Even if you just need some feedback about a lesson, I'm more than happy to help with that too. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure and do so and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. I'll see you next time.